If there's one thing you can count on from Mr. Super Oz, the channel, it is honesty and raw. And when it comes to this week's movie review, and it is only the second documentary I have talked about on the channel. First one was the true story of WrestleMania, which was not what I would consider all true, but that's how WWE likes to play the game under the Vince McMahon administration. But we are in a new era, a Triple H era, a Renaissance era, if you will. And so this week I am talking about Becoming Immortal, the Bray Wyatt story. And this thing was definitely raw, it was emotional, and after that open rolls, I'm going to talk about it, Becoming Immortal, the Bray Wyatt story. Whether it's your first time here or you're a regular here at Mr. Super Oz, I just want to thank you for tuning in to the channel. It exists because I, Oz, from the channel Mr. Super Oz, I wrote a 68-page graphic novel called Everlasting Survivors. Volume 1 is called All Day Long. If you follow the link in the description of this video, you can get yourself hats, shirts, posters, all kinds of fun things, but most importantly, you can get the story itself. And the more people that pick up the story, the greater the chances are that there can be continued adventures with these heroes. If you could, give it a like, subscribe if you haven't already, leave a comment, enjoy. Long-term viewers of the channel will know that this all stems from a place of loss and not wanting to be unsuccessful, but even that's not the wrong word, or that's the wrong terminology. So it's not necessarily a wanting to be unsuccessful, but the channel itself, like I said, it stems from loss and wanting to live up to the belief that my mother had in me, as far as seeing me in a successful light. And with that, the idea that this channel itself was founded with that motivation in mind, it really helps clarify just how powerful it is to see so many people, whether it be Bray, or Wyndham's brother, his sister, his mother, his father, all of his friends, talking about their belief they had in him as far as being an idea guy, a person who could execute all these things. Is just, it's so not just powerful, but also relatable, which is interesting to have those two parallels, both something being so inspirational and powerful, but also very grounded in reality. And the reality being that there are, it's crazy because there are times when personally I struggle and I wonder, are these ideas that are in my head ever going to be more than just ideas in my head? And it really felt as though that's something Wyndham could relate to, because especially when Triple H talked about how that he would say, oh, I like this idea, but where does it fit within the greater context of the world, the story that we're telling? And then Wyndham would come in and say, oh, maybe we need to blow it all up and change this or that. And it's like, oh, hey, we got a whole world to worry about. And it just, again, it was so it was so both specific with him, but also universal when it comes to the creative mind. Because when you always have those motivations, those pushes within your own self to think, this can work, this should work, it feels right, it's just rewarding to know that you're not alone. And when listening to everyone, whether it be Eric Rowan or Braun Strowman, Bo Dallas, all of them talk about how much he struggled, Wyndham, with the loss of John Huber, his friend. It's just one of those situations where a person who is seen as bigger than life is seen as this mythic figure, whether it be the cult leader Bray or the man possessed by the fiend or any version thereof. It's just it's humbling to see that even those whom you put on a different playing field experience the same struggles that, you know, the regular folk do. And with that, it's just the movie, the documentary, is well worth watching if you are even the most remote wrestling fan. Because if you were a fan in the late 70s, early 80s, and you know Blackjack Mulligan, well, they talk about him. If you were a fan in the 90s or the towards the end of WCW, you get to see Michael Wall Street or IRS Mike Rotunda. Because that's another thing about Wyndham, is he is a generational talent. I know that there's a very famous wrestler currently who says he's a generational talent, but Maxwell Jacob Friedman is the first of his generation, whereas Wyndham Rotunda is a third-generation wrestler who also had not just his grandfather and his father be wrestler, but like also his uncles were wrestlers. And so that's what I mean when I say he's a generational talent. He's a third-generation talent. And so the weight of it all, the gravity of the story that's being told, whether it's his pursuit of football where he dropped out to get into wrestling to be with his brother, or how that he got brought to mainline television before his brother because people saw his promise, and yet the big man in charge decided to make fun of his weight instead of accentuating his positives and hiding his negatives, which is the correct way to do wrestling. If you've got a man who can speak eloquently and convince people that he deserves to be followed, why would you then accentuate the fact that he is got a few extra pounds and put him in trunks? No, you give him that Hawaiian shirt and a microphone and let him go out there and convince the people that he's the man to listen to. And again, when it comes to trials and tribulations, the idea of struggle and strife, the idea that he is in the top spot in his career, and yet he goes and he loses to a man who isn't long for the wrestling world, being John Cena. And it's one of those situations, because I say this a lot about people. I said it about Becky Lynch at WrestleMania. It's like she could lose perpetually and she'd still be the man. Whereas if she had defeated Rhea Ripley at WrestleMania, it would have, I felt like, hurt Rhea way more than it helped Becky. And that's how I truly feel about John Cena defeating Bray Wyatt originally at WrestleMania. I mean, yes, you do get the retry in the pandemic era, and the correct outcome occurs when The Fiend vanquishes John Cena, but you could have even retread that story and just had John be the one who had to cleanse himself of that shortcoming. But that's neither here nor there. That's talking about booking. I'm not, the documentary isn't specifically a reflection on booking. It's a reflection on a loving human being, a man who, they even said it, every time he had a child, he was rejuvenated in his creativity. He was given new purpose to move forward, and that's just heartwarming stuff. And it's just heartbreaking that there are 4 kids without a father. And again, I'm going to rewatch Becoming Immortal, the Bray Wyatt story, because the first viewing was such a hard time to get through because of all the pain. And so I'm hoping that on a second viewing it can be more of a pleasure cruise, a trip down memory lane of fun times. But yeah, I thoroughly recommend that people watch Becoming Immortal, the Bray Wyatt documentary on Peacock, because it was well put together, and I think that I've known this for years because of being a DVD collector, but telling people's life story is definitely something that WWE excels at, and they should really focus on it, because whether it be the Kurt Angle documentary they had on Peacock or this Bray Wyatt documentary, the life story reflecting nature of WWE storytelling is top notch, and for sure something that they need to do more of. And I appreciate you for tuning in. I hope you have a great week. Come back all week for more content. Enjoy.